Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome this week to Deepblocks webinar. I want to wish everybody a happy new year, and I appreciate everyone taking the time to join us as we get to explore and look for industrial development opportunities in Gainesville, Florida. We're also going to be kind of announcing a little bit and doing a little bit of a sneak preview of a functionality and some reports that we are building out at the moment to help you compare cities, help you compare census tracts, and really bring you some key information to expedite your process in finding the potential gross buildable in different cities and as well as different census tracts across cities. So this is a really key functionality that we're building out here at Deepblocks, and it's really very exciting. And we're going to give you a little sneak peek of what it is in the works at the moment, and allow you to get an idea and see how Deepblocks software really is going to advance and again give you that competitive edge and show you where the trends are, and really allow you to find very quickly sites that are designed and catered to your development criteria. But before we get started, it's going to give a few more minutes to let some more people join us. Always feel free to reach out to me via chat if you have some questions, or reach out to me at michael@deepblocks.com. Again, my name is Michael Pavone from the Chief Revenue Officer of Deepblocks, and at any time, during the demo or even after the demo, we can always touch base and go through a one-on-one meeting and kind of explore the software, discuss how we can use the software to cater to your needs, optimize that use of the software to your particular process, and help again make your process more efficient. As you may or may not know, the software does have two different interfaces, and it's basically the entire concept of Deepblocks is to converge everything into one piece of software. On the front end, we have our site selection, allowing you to narrow down to thousands of parcels just to a handful based on your search criteria, then select that site and go through preliminary underwriting and into our Explorer interface, where you can understand the true and real potential of a particular site and see at a high level if it makes sense for your development agenda, and see basically do a 1 year back of the envelope return on cost, enter in setbacks, assumptions, to 3D modeling, massing, and truly understand what the potential of a particular site is. You can do assemblages, we can do subdivides and draw parcels within a larger parcel. So there's a tremendous amount of capabilities with Deepblocks. And as we announced at the very end of the year, we've launched into now 57 more cities. So we're currently in 100 cities with zoning data. And again, another key essential part of Deepblocks is that we are bringing all types of data sets into one piece of software. We have zoning data, parcel level data, market data, demographic data. And again, all this is used to help compute and go through these feasibility studies and really understand and figure out that true potential of a particular parcel. And again, on the site selection side, it allows you to refine your search using different types of zoning rules and constraints and different types of criteria to really find the sites that, again, are geared towards what you're trying to develop. So again, I'm just going to give a couple more minutes. I'm going to share my screen and kind of show you around a little bit of the few things that we have on our website. And then we'll kind of get going with the webinar. So here you'll see, this is the deepblocks.com on the city section. Now you can see in all the red dots are 100 cities with zoning data throughout the entire country. And the blue dots represent all the cities where we have parcel level data. Down below is the full list of all the cities we now have with zoning. And even though we're at 100 cities and we're truly leading right now with the most cities with zoning, we're continuing to work hard to expand this list and scale out to even more cities. We're already in the process of adding more cities. And always feel free to reach out to learn more about the cities that we are in and the cities that we are looking to add. In addition to adding cities with zoning, we're always working on adding new data sets and new functionalities to the software. Also keep in mind, we have our webinar section where we upload our past webinars, and always feel free to reach out to me. If you missed the webinar, I can send you the webinar link as well, so you can watch it on your own time. We have our tutorials link, which is a great resource of just showcasing anywhere from 30 to 60-second clips of the key functionalities and capabilities of Deepblocks, and kind of walking you through certain aspects of the software to help educate you and show you how to use the software to its full potential. Lastly, we have our pricing, and we have increased our pricing. Now we're now at $36,000. Consider we're now in 100 cities, so it's $36,000 annually. We are working on a local subscription as well, where you'll be able to pay $5,400 per city. So there's going to be various options. Again, still feel free to reach out to me. I think we still can possibly get you in at $18,000 one last time, but for the annual price for the national subscription, but we are officially at $36,000 from this point going forward. We are still, again, probably another week, we can give you the 18,000 before 36 is official, again, as I mentioned, from here on out. So with that being said, let's kind of get going here. And we are going to, the first thing I want to show is kind of jump in and do a little sneak preview of what I mentioned, what we are working on. This is what we call our latest kind of graph charts, and these are going to be our embedded into the software as we finalize creating this. And this is essentially what we're trying to bring to you is comparing, being able to compare cities, compare census tracts, and truly understand where the growth potential is. So as you can look and just kind of going through this, right now, we actually extracted in Gainesville, Florida, 4 of the census tracts, sorry, 5 of the census tracts. And just to give you a good understanding of what we're looking at here, census tract 11 and census tract 4 give you a good indication that the gross buildable for industrial parcels over time as is relatively quite a bit of availability for here for developing industrial parcels in Gainesville, Florida, in these particular census tracts. So as you can see, that gap of that beige color here in census tract 11 and census tract 4 gives you a good indication that there's a lot of development potential for industrial in those census tracts. And again, we're only showcasing 5 census tracts at the moment, but our goal is to, and what we're working on is to show every single census tract of every city that we are in with zoning, and as well as we'll show you all this across cities as well. So you'll see this breakdown from a city level as well as at a census tract level. So it's extremely powerful information, but just to kind of continue going down these different graphs and charts, here's another very key statistic. We can look at land average price, and we'll notice that again, the 2 census tracts we're kind of focused on because there's a lot of development potential for industrial. We can see there's a nice increase in land average price over the last 10 years. However, if we're looking for land that's relatively inexpensive because we want to purchase that land and develop industrial, it seems like census tract 4 makes more sense because right now you'll see the cost of land at average price is staying relatively flat over the last 10 years. So again, based on that indication, 4 has not only tremendous amount of potential for development in industrial, but it also shows you that the land value is relatively staying relatively flat and even, and giving us a good understanding that that might be more beneficial for us as we look for cheaper land to build upon. We can also look at employment percentage over the last 10 years. Again, the census tract 11, we're seeing a slight decline, but in census tract 4, we're seeing an uptick. So again, another good indication that there's employment growth, which will help us fulfill our the employment needs for that particular industrial center. And lastly, we can look at population too. And we're seeing a nice incline here in 11, but again, also a nice incline in 4. So again, this is a nice little snapshot, a little sneak preview of what we are building out. These are very powerful reports in the sense that we give you the ability to compare cities, and within the cities, you can compare census tracts. And again, the overall goal is to truly give you a nice understanding of what the gross buildable is, what is the potential for different types of uses, and then as you kind of understand your use, you kind of look at the over other types of key indicators, like I mentioned, land average price. We look at unemployment percentage and population, and get a good true feel of what, based on the census tract where there's or city first, and then census tract next, of where there is a potential to develop. We can then go into and look at these other key indicators and say, all right, now we're can focus in on, as I mentioned, for this particular webinar, we're going to be focusing on census tract 4 because As I mentioned, there's tremendous potential here for industrial development, and we're seeing some good indicators that pricing of land is still relatively low based on this chart. And then we see increases in employment percentage and population. So with that being said, we're going to jump into the actual software. And keep in mind, we are going to implement this into the actual software. So this is other reason the software is kind of increasing in price. For bringing a lot of not only more and more cities with zoning information, but we're bringing in more of these elements and map layers that are just truly extraordinary and powerful and helping you gain an edge within your industry and find those. I mean, obviously the goal here is to find the opportunities and to find them fast and to find them before your competitors do, as well as go through the process and try to eliminate as much upfront cost as possible. I mean, with the software, the fee of the software is much less expensive than going out and paying consultants, paying architects, or whoever it may be to go through this entire process. I mean, broker fees as well, like find the sites, and upon finding the sites, go through the different iterations and feasibility studies. All those costs add up, where with the use of software, you can do it all at your fingertips, right on your computer, and kind of go through the entire pre-construction ground up development process right with Deepblocks. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna jump into Gainesville. We're gonna go look at that particular census tract, which is census tract 4. And we're gonna look for industrial sites based on that reporting that we were just looking at. And again, that is a nice little snapshot and sneak preview that my engineer sent us to give you the first look of what we're working on and some of the exciting things that are going to be launched in 2022. So the best way to do this is we're going to actually turn on the census tract map layer. We're going to zoom out, and we'll just simply look for the census tract 4. Excuse me. And once we find census tract 4, we're basically going to zoom back in until we see those parcels. Here we go. Here's census tract 4 right here. You can also get a good idea what's going on in census tract 4 by turning on that buildable area ratio. What that buildable area ratio does, again, gives you a good idea of where there's pockets of interest and where we see potential going on. But as I mentioned, there's a lot of opportunity in this particular census tract of where we can develop industrial. So we're going to continue to zoom in on the census tract 4 until the parcels appear. All right, so now we have all our parcels appearing in census tract 4. And what we'll do now is we're going to activate our market scanner. We'll expand that screen, and we'll search for uses allowed will be industrial. We will select industrial. And just actually before I select industrial, just to kind of give you a quick idea of how many parcels we are looking at. Roughly got about 2,488 in this particular part of Gainesville, Florida. And actually get us to the center of the screen. All right, so we have about almost 3,700 parcels. But we're going to kind of, as I mentioned, focus in on industrial in that census tract 4. All right, so we're looking at about 198 parcels between these various census tracts, but let's focus in on, as I mentioned, census tract 4, and we're going to continue to zoom in with the software update. So we got about 191 per this particular census tract. Let me zoom in a bit more. So I really want to focus in on this particular census tract because we got about 124 parcels that are matching in census tract 4 for industrial use. At this point, we can continue to narrow it down. So again, just to kind of walk you through the steps, using those previous reports and that snapshot of that sneak preview I was just sharing with you, we found out there was a tremendous amount of potential to develop industrial in census tract 4. And as well, it was kind of confirmed that there was an incline in population, incline in employment percentage, land value is still relatively flat. So these are all good indications that this is a strong area to develop in. We're now within census tract 4 of Gainesville. I entered in industrial use allowed, and we went from 3,500 parcels in my viewport down to just 124 within this census tract. And now we can continue to narrow this down based on particular search criteria. So one of the key sliders I like to use for industrial is the buildable area. And I'm going to look for, let's start with about 50,000 square feet of buildable area to say 200,000. Just to see what kind of, all right, so we're now down to 90. All right, and let's go to 100,000. Down to 20. Okay, so we got about 20 parcels in that 100,000 and 200,000 gross buildable range. Actually, see if there's any that will go to, let's see if there's any minimum of 200,000. Build a really large warehouse. All right, so this is even better. So now we're down to 7. So we actually could build quite a large distribution center of sorts or logistical center in the industrial sector. And here we have 7 parcels matching with the gross that are zoned for industrial with a minimum gross buildable of 200,000 square feet. Let's see if any of this is on vacant land. We can turn our existing building area slider on. We can put zeros in here as well. And perfect. Now we have 1 parcel, vacant land, minimum 200,000 gross buildable. So this could be extremely great opportunity to develop. Fine. So we can select that parcel and we can go in and start doing the preliminary underwriting. But before I jump ahead, I'm just gonna look at some of the other key indicators. We can see it's in an opportunity zone as well. So that's a nice little added bonus for some possible tax incentives. We can look at some of the demographic data. We can, again, go through median income. See, we have about an average median income of $36,000. We can look at population. Again, check out that employment percentage right now is at 60.4%. Let's look at industrial rates. Now, again, this is going to be $11.88 per square foot. This is a strong baseline understanding of what we're seeing in the marketplace. We're taking an aggregate of all the listing data and throughout the country. Then we break it down by census tract, apply our machine learning to it to see what is being what you could lease your building out for, and it's right now at $11.88. So it's pretty strong number. So that's something to keep in mind. We could also look at the road types kind of passing through this particular parcel. So, and always keep in mind anything that we show in the map layers is you can go to the map legend here underneath the market scanner, understand where that data is stored, how that data is sourced, and how it's represented. So, for instance, the road types, we scroll down to the bottom in alphabetical order. And we can see that this is a principal road right there. We got some major collector roads right here. So it just gives you a good idea of the types of roads coming in and going out to best understand if this particular lot would make sense for a distribution center or whatever it may be that's industrial. It's also a good solid corner lot, so it's also a nice advantage as well. So we have that going for us. We can also continue to look at the demographic trends in this particular census tract as well. Now, again, we used the previous report to kind of get an idea of the gross buildable and some of the other key indicators. But if there's, again, if we want to kind of look at median gross rent or median household income as it is going on in census tract 4, we can turn the other ones off. You can see it's a nice strong incline in income. So another good indicator that there's more, it seems to be quite a bit of growth going on in this particular census tract. So these are all just good, strong indications that this is a very good area to develop in, a lot of opportunities. So we're going to kind of go into the next step of the process of using Deepblocks. We're going to select this parcel. Now, always keep in mind, you can do assemblages. So we have this, we can potentially speak to the owners of these other lots and do an assemblage of all 4 parcels and kind of go through preliminary underwriting analysis of the entire assemblage and see if there's a chance for a much larger development project. So there's always that flexibility with Deepblocks that we can do these assemblages as well. We also have the ability to draw parcels within this larger parcel to then evaluate. You can do subdivides, or you can break it up however you see fit. But again, because right now we're just doing an industrial play, I'm going to just stick to the one particular parcel that I'm interested in and that we narrowed down based on doing our search. So we can now go through the information. We'll see the demographic data, the property info for this particular parcel. As I mentioned, it's vacant land. We got our market value, land value of 288,000. Here's our ownership information, so which is extremely helpful. And then we start getting our zoning information, 5 stories by right, no height bonus. Let's see, we have a building height. Look into that. And then we have a lot coverage, non-residential building coverage. So then we'll get our parking by use, 1 per 500 square feet. And then we get our specific uses breakdown of this particular parcel. So we can do all these different types of uses that are specifically broken down. And lastly, we have our setbacks for this particular land. So next we'll go into preliminary underwriting, and we're going to do industrial. We continue. And now we're selecting what's going on is the software is actually creating a 3D model and massing based on various zoning constraints. And now we go into this is what we call our Explorer interface. That previous interface is what we call our market scanner, our site selection. As you know, as we just demonstrated, we went from 3,500 parcels down to exactly 1, perfectly set up for industrial. Now we're in the Explorer interface, and here's where we kind of start to work and do those feasibility studies. And you can also do various iterations. I like to always note that with Deepblocks, if there's multiple users, multiple licenses, you can share projects back and forth amongst your colleagues, and they can work on it, send it back to you. If you're working within your license, you could always copy a project and do different iterations of this project. And at the very end, you can export these projects out to a PDF report. It's a nice little 4-pager. Again, you can share with colleagues, share with investors or partners, whoever it may be. But let's kind of jump into this actual 3D model and start doing and go through the feasibility analysis. Obviously, here you'll see your KPIs, and this again, just to keep in mind, it's a 1-year back of the envelope return on cost. So it's a really high level understanding of the true potential of this particular parcel. So one of the first things we always like to advise is that you want to work on your parking first and get that activated. So we got parking by use, as I mentioned, I believe is 1 per 500 square feet. So you'll go into your adjust assumptions panel. We'll just simply click parking. You'll see it's industrial spaces per 1,000 square feet. And we get 1 per 500, so we'll just put 0.5 in. So it's just gonna be half. And our parking now appears here in the gray area. Now, listen, you could also consider doing parking on the ground floor, so we can increase setbacks and put enough of a setback where we can do parking on, so we can do surface level parking as well. So a lot of our users will take that route, and I'll demonstrate that as well. The next step was we're going to kind of start working on our setbacks. As you may recall, it's 25, 25, 20, and 10. So we're going to go into our setback mode to define the building. So let's go to setback mode. We're going to uniquely identify each side. So this is going to be A. This will be B. We'll make this C. And then rear will be D. Now, another thing I always keep in mind too with Deepblocks, to continue to add new features, we have a little bit measurement tools panel over here where you can actually draw within this particular part of the software. I mean, if you want, you can almost do different floor plans and kind of get a feel and understand the measurements of a particular floor. And you can actually do it on each individual floor. You could start on the ground floor, we can go to the 6th floor, then do a different type of measurement and layout and kind of get a good understanding. So, and it all will be saved respective to the floors you do build it out on. But just another useful tool to just kind of show you how to maximize the space that you're looking at and what you're trying to accomplish in your project. So it's just another level of detail we're trying to bring you to just give you some understanding of what the capacity is of a particular parcel, and again, figure out that true potential. So I'm just going to erase this for now. We're going to go back, exit our setback mode, and let's put these setbacks in. So it's 25, 25, 20, and then 10. And you'll notice, we'll zoom in a bit, you'll see that there's that green space all around. Now, again, we can increase these setbacks even more if we want to have, maybe, like I mentioned, surface level parking. Now, the building might be getting a little too high, but we'll come back and work on that. But you could do surface level parking here. We've seen people kind of calculate this space. They'll get rid of the underneath parking and use the vacant space here that we create using the setbacks to put their surface level parking in as well. It just depends on their preference, but I'm going to go back to the original setbacks and kind of work from this mode at the moment. All right. And we're going to adjust the assumptions a bit. Now, right now, it's about 360,000 square foot gross buildable. I'm going to reduce this a bit and just drop it down to about, say I need about 100. Yeah, we'll go to, let's see. There we go. Do about 130,000. So again, you can start to adjust the gross buildable and work on that to see what makes sense for your particular industrial project. You'll see that gray parking still sits in the gray right there perfectly. We then can go into, see what else we have here. So we have 5 stories by right, so that's perfect. So we actually right now only have 4 floors, so we can actually add another floor if you see fit. Yeah, keep in mind, like if we wanted to do another iteration of this, we could do 4 stories of industrial. I could copy this project. We could actually throw some office in if we wanted to, and adjust the office a bit if we feel that it's necessary to have some office space as well. And there we go. We can have a nice little setup with office. Now we got to add the parking in. Parking by use for office would be 1 parking space for each 300 square feet. So basically 3 spaces. So it's back up to 7. So again, you kind of have to work on the parameters a bit to get within the constraints of the zoning. But right there, you can see we have maybe a little bit of office there on the top. We got enough parking to cover the office and industrial, or maybe we want more office than we do industrial. We only need maybe 1 or 2 floors of industrial. Again, it just depends on what your criteria is, what you're trying to develop. But here with Deepblocks, you get that flexibility of working the project, working the model to really suit your needs and make it work in terms of your overall, as I mentioned, your overall guidelines or what you guys have for your business model. I do have a question here. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us. I do appreciate it. And just kind of going into some of the other aspects just to work on the KPIs, we can now go into, we'll start with the industrial first, and I'm actually going to take the office. No, I'll leave the office on for the moment, but we can jump on that leasing income. We do pre-populate this with a sub-market rate, and this is kind of reflecting what we're seeing in the current market. As I mentioned, we do use our machine learning and validate this information routinely. So we're basically taking an aggregate of listing data, and again, applying our machine learning to bring you a strong baseline. But as you know, we leave these fields open for you to edit and modify based on what your knowledge is of the market as well. So, or what you feel might make more sense based on what you're trying to accomplish. So right now we're seeing about $11.88, but maybe we can get let's say we can get $14 a square foot. That'll help that ROC go up a bit. We can work on the office side as well. We're seeing about $17.20, but maybe we can get $20 a square foot. That also helps that ROC go up to about 5.34. We can go into the cost side and start adjusting the property purchase price. Again, maybe we can negotiate this down to about 2.75 million. And I'm just going to put some numbers in there just to kind of demonstrate that as we reduce the cost, increase the income, will help us work on this ROC getting a little bit higher. There's vacant land, so we shouldn't have any demo cost. Any soft cost will be 12% of the hard. Get that to 5.53. And then again, as I mentioned, this is also pre-populated with a sub-market value of the hard costs we're seeing in a particular census tract. For office, about $147. Maybe we can get that down to 144. Industrial's at $96 per square foot, so maybe we can do about 92. And again, just little modifications to adjust parking lead of 41. And now we have ROC of 5.71%. Again, we can try to adjust contingencies as well. We get that down to 4%. So little by little, just kind of working these assumptions, trying to keep them within line, within reason, and trying to see if we can overall see, again, the whole concept here is to just truly figure out and say to ourselves, does this make sense? Is this a project, or is this parcel worthy of our time, worthy of investing our resources into it and moving it to the next phase? And then at that point, you probably start bringing in your team and saying, all right, we went through this entire phase, we came upon this parcel, and the true concept of Deepblocks is the value to go through and find numerous parcels and say to yourself, all right, we have this parcel and with industrial potential, and here's what we're coming out with in our feasibility studies. And here's some of the iterations for that particular parcel in industrial play. But then you go to another parcel within the same census tract. Okay, here's option 2. Again, similar iterations within that parcel. And as I mentioned, when you, at the very end, you go to your return analysis, you'll see all your breakdown of the income statement. We'll look at our assumptions as well, broken down in detail from property, building to area and economics and project costs. But this is where it's extremely powerful. We can generate this to a PDF report. You can customize your report, enter who it's from, who it's going to, write your own a little summary, upload your own cover image for the particular property, upload your company logo and color palette. And we can generate that report. And you can do a report for every single iteration, for every single parcel that you're kind of evaluating. So here we'll see that 4-page report. You can up your logo would go here. We change these colors, but you see that summary that you write would replace this summary. Property info, zoning summary, stacking plan. These are the key demographic trends that we were discussing earlier. And then lastly, that financial analysis, that 1-year back of the envelope return on cost. So again, nice little 4-pager that you can now share with your colleagues. And so, excuse me. But just to give you a nice little summary of what we looked at today, it was a nice little sneak peek of what we're working on here at Deepblocks with the comparison of cities and comparison of census tracts. We're really trying to help you identify the next best opportunity for your development play, and all across the country. And as I mentioned, we're going to have that reporting capacity throughout all 100 cities, or in any city addition that we continue to add to the software. And you can do it from a city level. So imagine coming to the software, comparing Gainesville versus Tallahassee, San Francisco versus New York, saying, all right, the potential to develop is New York over San Fran, Tallahassee over Gainesville, or Gainesville over Tallahassee. And you'll be able to make that decision based on uses that you're looking at that are along your interest. And then again, validating that decision based on land value, population, employment percentage, and other types of information. And once you kind of choose that city, you'll then break that down by census tract and say, okay, within, like we did today, within Gainesville, now I just demonstrated 5 census tracts of the very many, but you can quickly identify saying, all right, census tract 4 made the most sense for industrial development. There's a tremendous amount of gross buildable potential for industrial development. And again, that was validated with land values relatively lower, increase in population, increase in employment, and that led us to go through and find sites and parcels based on industrial, zone for industrial at gross buildable minimum 200,000 with vacant land, and we landed right on this particular parcel we're looking at right now. And we did our feasibility study and 3D modeling on this particular parcel for industrial, threw in a little bit of office just to kind of showcase how we can work the model and do different iterations of this particular interface in the Explorer side of Deepblocks. So with that being said, I really do appreciate you joining me in the new year. We have an exciting year ahead of us. We're working on a lot of new things. As I mentioned, the comparison of cities and census tracts is just one of many things we are launching. As I mentioned, now we're in 100 cities with zoning. So Deepblocks is just has a very strong roadmap and a lot of very good things that are going to be benefiting our customers and potential customers that we were working with. And again, feel free to reach out to me, Michael at deepblocks.com. Always looking forward to having a conversation and again, if you need assistance with your current license or you're looking to obtain a license, either way, we're here to support you and work with you and for a long-lasting relationship and partnership. So thank you again and have a great afternoon. Take care. Bye.